what you've started to identify is the reason why most people don't get truly fluent in a second language. It's not about the language itself, it's about their cognition, how they think about reality. Why? The basic mistake people make when learning a second language at any level, any two languages, is assuming that the second language is somehow made to be a derivative of the first language. What the fuck do I mean by that?
Yeah, you mean by translating or comparing, yes. Which is not
right. Like that it's supposed to just be like a mathematical calculation, like a map between the two languages. Okay, so I have this word, so here's the equivalent in English. Now this word is the same thing in English. So now anytime I would say this word, I should just say this word instead in English, and I'll be communicating exactly the same way. That's not how languages work. It's not how languages have developed and evolved. What are languages? What's unique about the first language you learned compared to any other language you learned after that?
What is unique about language handling? I never compare it to something else.
Right. Your first language is the most direct representation you have of reality. That's the job of a language, to represent reality. So then when you learn a second language, you're not representing reality, you're representing a representation of reality, because you're just comparing it to the language you already have, which itself is a representation of a thing. An idea, a concept in its most pure form, right?
Yeah.
So you need to bypass that if you want to actually get fluent in the language, right? You need to be thinking in English, directly representing reality instead of representing Persian in English, which itself represents reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't speak any Persian, so I have no fucking clue, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you have a word that means the same thing that we mean by the word spark, for instance. Maybe you have something that means something similar, but that isn't used exactly the same way. Probably, right?
Probably. Most of the time it's like this, not most of the time. So that when thinking in word by word, it is, but in general, like I would say my problem in English is like I translated from Persian.
Yeah, because doing that.
And it's not working like always.
Don't do that. Stop it.
Okay.
Isn't it amazing? You could have dozens of language teachers over the course of your entire life, and probably zero of them would ever give you that piece of advice. Well, you could have dozens of language teachers over the course of your entire life, and very few of them, or zero of them, would ever give you that piece of advice. Stop thinking in your native language. Because all they do is teach you to translate in their language.
Yeah.
Because they're fucking idiots and are horrible at their job.
Yeah.
That's why people who actually get good at a language and approach fluency are generally people who learned it primarily in a classroom, by comparing it with their native language. They learn it by watching Friends.
Friends, the TV show.
Friends. Or American movies, where they make friends with Americans or something like that. Why? Because that requires a direct interaction with reality. Right?
Yeah.
Functional use of the language.
Yeah.
So, you asked me, what is a spark? I could have translated it into Farsi for you, or you could use Google Translate, right? And that would have given you an adequate answer. Then you would have known what that word means, right?
Yes.
But you would be thinking of it in terms of its Persian equivalent, right? What did I do instead?
You started to say what is the act and what is that we see after things that happen. Like spark is when you explain completely like a dictionary, like experience and say the word, and after that explain, and in an example like because I am involved with welding, so like a mask and what is the mask for, and this and that, like make it real for me.
There are two reasons welders are masks. You identified the first one, light. This is why you have the tinted glass over your eyes so you don't stare at the bright light, right? Also, whatever the rest of the fucking mask, what's that for?
To protect the skin.
From what?
From what? Burning.
What burns?
The skin burn.
What causes it to burn?
I don't say fire. It's not fire.
Yeah, I did a few things there. One, I gave an operational demonstration. I didn't just describe what sparks are, right? Like I could have done that, but instead I painted a scenario in your mind. I know that you are familiar with because you're a welder, right?
Yeah.
So there are many examples I could have given to demonstrate what sparks are, right? And if I were talking to someone else or didn't know very much about them, I might have given a different demonstration. But because I know you're a welder, I know you have strong associations and familiarity in your mind, so I said, why do welders wear masks? First you said because of the bright light. And I said, yep, that's one reason why. What's the rest of the mask for, though? The part that isn't covering your eyes. Well, because it'll burn me. What'll burn you?
Yeah, the spark.
The hot pieces of metal flying in your face when you weld. What are those called? Okay, all right. Now suddenly you have this vivid association with a mechanic of something you do regularly, right?
Yeah.
You know that now we have a word to describe that. And then you told me, actually, I don't think we have a word in Persian that means exactly the same thing. Okay, I had no idea, right? But it doesn't matter, because if you're thinking in English, you're representing a particular aspect of reality that you're very familiar with that word now. The hot pieces of metal flying in your face when you weld. There are other ways we can use the word spark, though. Like if you're trying to start a fire in a fireplace, there won't be hot pieces of metal flying in your face, but there'll still be sparks. When you're starting the fire, like flint and steel or something, sparks, right? Or, as you just read it on the back of that book description. Okay, read it again. Yeah, where did you encounter the word spark that started this whole discussion about what the word spark means and the vivid description of hot metal flying in your face? Because you're clearly not reading about hot metal flying in your face there. What is this? First, what's the context?
How an unlikely revolutionary sparked American independence.
Sparked?
No, sparked.
Sparked. How an unlikely revolutionary sparked American independence in this biography of Thomas Paine, one of the founding fathers of America.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they use the word sparked as a verb there, as an action? Before we were talking about things, nouns, hot pieces of metal flying in your face as sparks, and now we're saying he's sparking something. He's doing something. What is he doing, and why are we calling it sparking?
I just want to say my feeling. Like it's like not spraying just. It's like I feel sparking and spraying something is the same. Like, but
there is a similarity.
Yeah, but spraying is not cold. It's not hot. It's like just.
Right.
But
it describes a mechanism of movement, spraying, a spreading of something.
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
But the spark is like the movement is maybe hot. Is like effective.
It's hot and
not dangerous. Is like changeable. Change something.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you spray a water, nothing will change. But when spark of metal touch your, for example, face, definitely changes the part of your face which is burning.
And if you were to spark a bunch of dry grass or paper or cardboard or gasoline, what would happen?
Gasoline, spark. If there is a fire, you explode. You will explode.
They will combust, is the term we're looking for. They will catch on fire, and the fire will grow on its own, even without you doing any additional work to keep adding more sparks, right? You only need the initial spark, the very beginning. You lit a fire in our fireplace last night.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You only have to be present for the beginning of that process, right? You have to light the initial fire, and if there's sufficient fuel and the other conditions for fire to grow, it will burn by itself, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am like a... I'm like a...
You're like a spark.
Is it a spark?
Yes. Sparking something. See? We've adapted.
Oh.
I don't know if you do this in Persian, but in English, we very often adapt poetic, metaphorical meaning from physical, literal things. and apply them in a poetic way, right? Because you could write that sentence many different ways. You could just say he started the idea, he instigated American Revolution, he got people to agree initially with he popularized the idea of American Revolution. All of those would be perfectly adequate ways to describe what he did, right? But they're using this poetic, intense word associated with fire and combustion and growth. He sparked American independence.
Spark. And is it match? In the match, is it a spark?
Yeah, there are sparks when you light a match.
Okay, so now I know what.
Yes, see, so it's not just when you're welding, it's all these other things too. Right?
Yeah.
And now you have an operational example in your mind to refer to. The same thing when a baby first learns, oh, this is a book. They're not comparing it to some other word that means book. They have a tangible representation of a book. And then we take qualities associated with physical things and we make them metaphors and we apply them in other ways where they don't obviously make sense. Like why we just used the word spark there, because we're saying it has the qualities of sparks, the physical things.
Exactly, but something happened yesterday. It was also funny. Not funny maybe, but funny maybe. Which was, you asked us what thinking is. And actually, for a few minutes, we tried, I think, to answer.
You tried to think about thinking.
No, we're not answering like what the thinking is. And after that, I figured out like, okay, I don't know. I got it when I was a kid in Persian. And after that, I translated in English and any languages I can translate it. But actually, if somebody asks me what the thinking is, I cannot explain. Like it's a feeling. So I was saying like maybe it's not necessary to know the word exactly like a dictionary to learning English, but just in an example, understand like, yes, is it working? Like until yesterday, I didn't know that I don't know what the thinking is.
Okay.
But in my whole life, I use the thinking.
You use the word thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, without thinking about what it means.
Yeah.
Like some kind of tangible demonstration.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And nobody told me like, oh, you cannot speak Persian because you don't know exactly what does it mean. I was like, okay.
Okay, so do you want to know the frustration of being someone who's really, really good at explaining things? You want to know how frustrating my life is?
Wow. What is frustrating? I feel
difficult, infuriating, annoying, a particular difficulty, annoyance that I have to deal with being the kind of person I am, right? And this is going to sound like I'm bragging, but really I'm complaining. When you're really, really, really good at explaining things, you realize how absolutely terrible 99% of people are at explaining things or even understanding things. The vast majority of people are saying words without having any idea what they actually mean. Like they're just repeating things they've heard other people say with very little cognitive understanding. And that's why they get annoyed when you ask them to explain what they mean, because they suddenly realize they can't. Well, I heard someone else say this, so I'm repeating what I heard. Okay, but what does it mean? Why do you do it that way? Can you explain it another way? Can you demonstrate what you're talking about? Can you go deeper? Can you break it down into parts? No, I'm just repeating what I heard someone else say. And some of these people can actually do the thing because again, they're just repeating what they've seen someone else do, right? But they can't tell you how they did it, or like modify the idea. Like, okay, in these circumstances, I did it this way. But if you were going to do it in your circumstances, which are different than my own, you would have to do it in a different way, such as this. You could do that if you truly understood what the fuck you were talking about. 99% of people don't.
Okay. So now, what does that mean? I want to tell you. What does that mean? How an unlikely revolutionary sparked American independence. First, I feel like I am not reading like a fluent, even not like a
communicating fluently.
Fluency, yeah. I'm like I'm not engaged with the words yet. What was unlikely?
Unlikely.
Unlikely.
The opposite of likely. You know, likely. Probably. Realistic. You don't know the word likely?
Not I like something.
No. Something that is likely means probable. Like, it will probably happen.
Unlikely.
Unlikely is the opposite.
Not
unrealistic.
Unrealistic.
Yeah. Like, you would not expect this to happen at the time. It was unique. It was unexpected. It was different.
It was unique. So it was realistic, but...
So in a way, they're being redundant because all these, even the word revolutionary contains the same idea. For something to be revolutionary, it has to be unique and unexpected and unlikely. Otherwise, it's not revolutionary.
Yeah.
Revolutionary comes from the word revolution, like a turning around, a fundamental change in how you think about or do something, like the revolution of the earth around the sun. A revolutionary idea is one that completely changes the way people think about or do something, right?
Yeah.
There aren't really that many revolutionary ideas as you think about it, just like the big ideas in science and philosophy, right? So to call Thomas Paine a revolutionary already implies that what he's doing is unlikely, unexpected, unique, never been done before, right? They're just kind of being redundant by saying the unlikely revolutionary. All revolutionaries are unlikely. They have to be revolutionaries.
Otherwise, they are not revolutionary. Yeah. Okay. How an unlikely revolutionary is sparked? In this book, we want to see what happened to him and how he explained his idea about American independence. So it's
it's explaining like the story of how he sparked American independence, how he came up with the idea, how he influenced other people with the idea as a writer.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Thomas Paine and the dangerous word.
Definitely Thomas Paine and the dangerous word.
Thomas Paine and the dangerous word. So why we use the dangerous word?
At the time, it was considered dangerous to say that America should be independent of England. That was the revolutionary idea, the concept that you don't need a king telling you what to do.
Yeah, but I mean, why not dangerous word?
And the dangerous word was independence. It was considered dangerous because most people weren't ready to think in those terms, and there would be a strong political response from the king if he found out, of course, that you were trying to separate from him. He'd send his armies to fucking kill you, because that's what kings do. They force your obedience through military might, right? And it was dangerous even just among the people, like a controversial idea, right? Like that even if the king himself didn't come kill you, your neighbors might judge you and they might not want to talk to you, or they might argue with you, or they might get upset, right? In the same way that I upset the Armenians by saying, hey, women should choose their own husbands and how they want to have sex. That's a dangerous idea. What's dangerous about it? Well, it's only dangerous because you're going to have a fucking psychotic response to it, like that you're not ready to consider that possibility, right? That's why it's dangerous.